Paul, you're on mute.
Here.
Benjamin Stanley.
Present.
Michael Harrison.
Present.
Joseph Buckman. Sean Fletcher is on vacation. There's Chris Ball. It looks like commission liaison. Oh, Eric Cunningham is here.
Here in the great city of Kalamazoo.
Perfect. Thank you. Introduction of guests. We have board applicant Rachel Hughes. Is it Nilsson?
Nilsson.
Has everybody had an opportunity to review her application?
Yes.
Could I quickly make a motion to approve the absences of the people that aren't present?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the absences of the people that are not here.
Second, if we need it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. Rachel, can you give us some information about your application and your interest in the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board?
Absolutely. Thank you for letting me visit with you all tonight. I am a born and raised Kalamazooan, so I've been here all my life. I am a licensed landscape architect, and I have served on the City of Kalamazoo Planning Commission and Zoning Commission prior to this. Termed out on the Zoning Commission, left the Planning Commission due to some work constraints just slightly before I would have termed out. It's been my family's mantra to serve the community where we can. So I've always tried to be on boards where I feel my skill set as a landscape architect can help with that board, hence being on the Planning Commission and the Zoning Commission in the past. To me, the Park and Recreation Advisory Board just kind of makes sense. I design parks. I've worked on several parks here in the city of Kalamazoo. I've worked in parks and designing parks and working on maintenance issues with other parks around the state of Michigan. So I'm familiar with how they operate and current, basic maintenance issues and things like that. And would like to see if I could be a part of the board and help at all.
Wow.
Absolutely. Any board questions, comments to Rachel?
Sure. Rachel, can you name some of the parks here in the city that you worked on?
Sure, absolutely.
Probably Bronson.
Yes, Bronson was one. Reed Street Park was probably the most recent. The Port in Place surfacing at Upjohn Park, both phases of Rockwell Park, both phases of Davis Street Park, Hayes Park.
Wow.
Patrick, jump in. I'm missing some.
Henderson Tot Lot.
Henderson Tot Lot, thank you.
Wow.
Yep.
Rockwell.
So yeah, I'm familiar with several parks, but although I will admit I just discovered Sherwood Park this last weekend, so that was a new one for me. But I've worked on several of the City of Kalamazoo parks.
Sounds exciting. Do you have your own landscaping business?
Nope. So I work with a bunch of other landscape architects. Our company is OCBA Landscape Architects here. We've been around for 57 years in the City of Kalamazoo. So we do a lot of park work, trails, commercial, a lot of either educational corporate campuses. We do a lot of work for Western Michigan University. And we have an office here in Kalamazoo and an office in Grand Rapids.
Awesome. Awesome. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Haven't voted yet.
Well, anyway, I'm speaking it into existence. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
Any other questions? My basic question for any applicant that I've always asked in the past is about the time commitment.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's not an issue. Like the Planning Commission and the Zoning Commission, I understand that it's monthly meetings, that I have preparatory work ahead of time that I need to do. That we all sometimes have tasks or things that we need to do for the board, and so that is calculated into my time, and so that should not be an issue.
Okay. Any other questions for Rachel?
Your application says that you live in Kalamazoo. Can you just confirm that, I guess?
Yep, I live in Millwood.
Do you have a favorite park?
That's like asking what your favorite child is. I like Reed Street. Reed Street turned out really well. You know, we had a lot of great neighborhood involvement with that one, and I think the neighborhood is really pleased with that. I see kids there all the time. I drive up and down Portage every day for work, so I get to see how full that park is. And to me, that's just the best part, is actually seeing people use it once you're done designing it. I like Millen Park too, just being born and raised here. You know, that park has been around for eons. I remember when there was a zoo there. So, you know, that's a great park too.
Perfect.
Do you have any plans or aspirations for being a part of the Parks Department that come to mind?
Part of the Parks Department?
I guess I just asked because you have so much experience with parks and landscapes and kind of like what parks are made up out of. Is there anything that comes to mind that that's different from like the planning and zoning that?
Oh, for this board. Well, I'm really intrigued by the idea that it looks like from past meeting minutes, you guys have kind of started each adopting a park and kind of maintaining it and looking in on the parks. And I really like that. And I think, you know, if we can encourage things like that and encourage more neighborhood involvement in some of the parks, you know, I look at my neighborhood Facebook page and I see a lot of complaints about parks, but I don't see a lot of people stepping up and volunteering for the parks. And I'd like to change that. I think we as a community need to be more involved in that. I think it would be good for all of us to be out in the parks. That just, I mean, outside time for anybody is a health thing. So, you know, if we can contribute and encourage more neighborhoods to help support the parks, I think that would be a good thing. So I think that's something I'd like to see.
Awesome.
Excellent. Any other questions? Okay, I think at this point, Rachel, we're going to ask you to leave. We'll discuss your application. And I believe Shannon will get back with you on our decision.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Nice
joining,
meeting you.
Rachel.
Nice meeting you all too. Bye.
Pam, you've got comments?
Do I have comments? It'd be nice to have another person like myself that's going to be on the board. More diversity. That's what we are looking for, striving for. And it sounds like she has a lot of experience to offer. So I'm looking, hopefully she will be joining.
Go ahead, Chris.
One comment. Does her position on landscape architect company actually pose a possible conflict of interest by having her on the board?
You know, I guess it could. I guess if some sort of a conflict were to occur, I guess my expectation would be that she would abstain from some sort of a vote like that. But I guess that it could.
Okay. It's just something that we should be aware of, I guess. It sounds like someone else is about to make a comment. So
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking back about the 3 years of meetings I've been a part of, and we've never been a decision maker on like who to hire or like what's actually going into a park. It seems like we get informed from Patrick or from, you know, Sean or whoever about what's happening in the park. And so I don't know how much sway we have over anything that would influence her company or anything. So, but maybe you guys have had experiences where you think that there could be some conflicts there. Obviously there's potential.
yeah, I think there is potential. My guess is her her value added to the discussion is going to be greater than any possible potential risk. But, you know, if all of a sudden, like, there's 4 people from that company on our board, then we might need to start rethinking that. And I'm sorry, John, one more thing. And
Go ahead.
as far as I know, we don't have anyone from the Millwood neighborhood on our board, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So I think that's, yeah. And as Pam was saying, we don't have many women on our board either. So I think she'd be a great addition.
Yeah. I think her expertise speaks for itself. And like I said, I think if we were making some sort of a decision that could impact her employer, so to speak, I guess my expectation would be that she would abstain from that vote.
Didn't ask her this question, but curious, have her company done any contractual work for the city of Kalamazoo, our parks or anything?
Mhm.
They have, she has.
Mhm.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Patrick, can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, as far as the contractual work, or
I guess I guess how the work went and your opinion of her, if you have one.
I don't want to sway you guys, but yeah, we work quite a bit with OCBA, obviously being in town, they're local. I've worked a lot personally with Rachel on projects, and I can both say from a professional perspective and from a personal perspective, she is amazing. She has a lot of passion, and it not only comes out in her professional work, but being a lifelong Kalamazoo resident and Millwood, she and her family are park users of all of our parks. I think she would be a great addition. She's got a lot of great knowledge and ideas that, I think would be really great for the board. And I appreciate you bringing up that point, Chris, about any, type of perspective of, if she would abstain. I don't think she would let that, influence her on the board whatsoever. So.
Does anyone know if there's any other applicants in the pipeline that we need that are vying for this spot, or should we? Okay.
We, if I understand correctly, and this is something that I wanted to discuss later in the meeting, we have a Chris Patchell's position that's vacant, and we have another position which I kind of personally would like to see a youth representative apply for. We do have an applicant that Shannon just shared with us. Sean had indicated that he had a youth representative perhaps, and I'm also working on a youth representative as well. So we're getting to capacity. So at this point, if I understand correctly, we have 2 positions vacant.
Is one of them a youth position specifically? Or no?
We do have a youth representative. We don't currently have a person in that position. Yeah. And that position counts towards our total number of board members.
I think she would be a great fit. I would really like to see somebody with that, background and that lens of we're talking about projects and she's like, oh, have you guys thought about this? Because this is what I work with. I think that would be a very good addition.
Yeah.
To this group.
I think she has great expertise. So I think that would be something that like Benjamin said, that we could really tap into that expertise. I like that.
Well, if no other comments, I'd like to make a motion to approve Rachel Hughes Nielsen to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board.
Is there a second?
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Anyone opposed? So moved. So this, Shannon, this will go to the city commission as of April?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Thank
Oh,
you.
quick question.
Go ahead, Michael.
Does that mean that we only have one space available for the board after this, after she fills the spot?
Correct. Now,
two.
Sean had mentioned to Chris Bowl and I about possibly looking into adding board members to the board. We haven't had that conversation, and perhaps we can do that next month when Sean is back. I would be open to that. So, yes, with adding Rachel, we will have one position still available. Correct. Okay, thank you. Item 2 is our representative from the Environmental Concerns Committee, Rob, is it Rob Lekas?
Yes, that's me.
Rob, I apologize for not introducing you last month. Rob, can you share with us your input? You know, what can you bring to our board? Rob, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. You got me now?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I really was just kind of assigned to weigh in if you guys did have any questions, and really just be an observer to kind of link the committees together. I'm also just advisory right now, one of the newer members on the environmental concerns, but they're really doing great things, and looking forward to kind of the spring and getting more involved and working together.
Go ahead, Chris.
Rob, can you tell us a little bit more about the ECC board?
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out. Okay, unmute. Yeah, sure. They have several priorities right now, most of which is going to be the paper mill that has been obviously creating some concern, but they're also focused on some of the, what is it, just the activities of the city. So getting more recycling in place, and then having some of the parks also either beautification projects and making sure that they're planting more natives. So not just things that look good, but that are also helpful to the local wildlife.
So environmental concerns, this is different than brownfield redevelopment. This is runoff water. I guess we're trying to grasp what kind of contributions you can bring to the Parks Board.
Sure, yeah. I'd like to obviously give you the perspective of what you guys are, a larger committee is my understanding, and we're more micro in scope. I mean, the bigger projects like the paper mill and most recently Woods Lake, trying to make sure that some of the projects are renewed there, just because it's one of the reservoirs that it's called a lake, but it is receiving a lot of runoff, and especially during the winter when all the plows and everything. I know that neighborhood specifically is expressing a lot of concern. So generally, you guys are the big picture, and we kind of would like to assist you in clarifying anything that, specifically would be impacting the environment, as opposed to kind of the recreation and the things that most people in Kalamazoo enjoy about the parks.
So we've discussed removing the dam at Millen Park. So you could give us some input in that perspective?
Sure. Obviously, as one of the newest members, I would have to bring it back to our committee, and we could definitely add it to our agenda. And if you had specific questions, I would bring it up to everyone, and then I could meet with you before the next meeting, so you have the information ready for dissemination, or I could just give a quick brief of what our findings were, I guess.
Okay.
So, Rob, is your board made up of environmental scientists as well as just concerned citizens?
I'd say there's a healthy mix. There's 2 or 3 doctors, one of the aldermen, and a teacher, and then I'd say about 3 or 4 just residents. So one of the doctors is a adjunct professor at Western. There's another one who's a recent retiree, Dr. Meluish, and the third, I believe, is I'm not sure exactly, but there's a wide spectrum of experience for sure. A GIS teacher.
So, Rob, I'm just reading about your committee on the city board, on the city website, and it says that you guys advise the city commission on environmental concerns and the city manager, I guess, too. So I think one thing that'd be helpful is just when there are things before your board that like affect the parks, maybe if you could bring them to us so that we're in the loop on it and kind of aware of it. And then I guess if we have things that we think can influence, I guess, your board's decision, maybe we can share them with you and use your board, your commission's power, I guess, to contact or to talk to the city and the manager and stuff. So it seems like a good partnership.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you guys have any suggestions, I'm definitely open to that. Like I said, I'm one of the newest members, and I guess the previous person in this role wasn't always available. So I'm trying to step in where the need was not being met. So yeah, I think last month when I was kind of just observing, one of the things that jumped out was that you were talking about almost having like resident ambassadors for people who are interested in individual parks, just so you weren't having to try and canvass the whole neighborhood if you were trying to do something new to their park. And I sent that along to ours, and then also the beautification where you were talking, or someone mentioned color schemes or something, and then residents were going in and planting their own without asking you, I guess. And so, yeah, I wanted to bring that back and try and make sure that if residents are taking initiative without kind of getting permission, that it is a hopefully native species that won't harm your bigger projects.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you need help with knowing different things to plant as part of the environmental concerns?
I'm sorry, I only heard the tail end of that. What was the question?
Is helping know what to plant something that you guys deal a lot with?
Depending on The member, yeah, there is one of our members is on the tree board. So she's very familiar. And then I think there are 2 master gardeners that also have a lot of information to share. So I think we could certainly help out in that department. But like I said, the spectrum of what we can help on, we'll certainly let you know if we can. And if we can't, we'll just graciously decline.
Any other questions for Rob? Thank you, Rob. I appreciate your contributions and I appreciate your willingness to join us.
Sure. Sorry. Yeah. And the only reason I had my camera off is I've got 2 toddlers walking around. So, but I'll try to be active and certainly, yeah, if anybody has any questions, hopefully you can make my email available and I'll be sure to pass it along.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thanks for your input.
All right. Thank you guys.
Have a good night.
All right.
Do we have any changes to the agenda? Under old business, I would like to get some sort of an update on Glen Park. And under new business, I would like to discuss the new board members or perhaps adding additional members to the board, youth representative, things like that. So that's the additions I would like. Any other? Approval of February minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Actually, I think I actually read the minutes because I wasn't here last month. So that was nice. I think the only problem was at the end of the minutes, it said the next meeting was going to be in February, but
Smart.
but it was actually today. So anyway, other than that, I'll second Paul's motion to approve the minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? So moved. Chris or Paul, can you give us some sort of a little bit of an update on Glen Park?
Yeah, Paul, do you want me to start and then you fill in?
Yeah.
If I miss. All right. So we met with the Oakwood Winchell neighbor. Well, first of all, let me take a step back. So to keep new board members in a loop, I've had an idea of using a little used park in Winchell to put a small kids bike walking trail in the park. It's Glen Park. It's on Parkview. It's actually on Kensington, just north of Parkview. And so we met with the Oakwood Winchell Neighborhood Board Association and had a discussion about that. And I think their big take is they don't really know what we're trying to do. And so I'm putting together a buttoned up presentation for them to hopefully alleviate any of their concerns, although I felt like we've done this numerous times. But I agree the initial presentation probably wasn't what it should be. And up until that time, I had really been focused on keeping the Parks and Rec Board filled in appropriately, not necessarily the Oakwood Winchell Neighborhood Association. So I'm working on that now. I was hoping to have it ready for this meeting, but I don't. But it will be completed definitely before our next meeting. So hopefully I can send it out to you guys in the packet so we can preview it. And I mean, I'd love to get this thing built in time for June, But yeah, I think their biggest concern, and I think it's our concern too, is the potential number of users for that park. And John and Paul, correct me if you think I'm not correct. But we don't want 300 people a day using it. Well, I don't know, maybe we do want 300 people using it a day, but we understand that might not be a good fit for that neighborhood. And I'm trying to figure out a way to put in legitimate guesstimates of park usage. So essentially forecasting, which is actually really difficult to do because we really don't know. We could take a place like Fort Custer, who actually tracks the number of people who use those trails. Say it's 22 miles of trails, the number of people use that, and then say ours is a third of a mile, so it's 60 times less in length. There's all sorts of ways we could get to this number of potential use, but I'm not really sure the right way to get there. I'll figure something out. Our best guess possibly is to use users or ridership, I guess, over at a park east of the airport in Portage. That's really similar to something that we're doing, but they don't keep any usage statistics on that. So I visited that park 2 or 3 times and never saw anyone using it. Everyone I've talked to who has used that park has been the only user there. So I'm trying to figure that out. One of the demands from one of the board members was suggesting that we do a environmental impact study for this, which seems enormous overkill for a kid's trail. And to be honest, I think she just hates the idea of people being in that park. But I don't know if that's the case with everybody on that board.
Chris, I think their concern is, from what I was hearing, is that their neighborhood has a plan for that space, and they don't necessarily agree that this type of change fits their plan for that space. So
yeah, and John, I think that's a fair assessment, and I think their plan for the park is to not touch it.
Right. And I agree.
Which
I agree with your statement.
Right. And I don't know. I think being part of, we're part of the Parks Department, right? I think our mission is to get as many people outside enjoying our public spaces, as we possibly can. But I also understand that not every idea is a perfect fit for every single park.
Right.
I do really think this is a perfect fit for that park. I won't lie to any of you here. I think it's a fantastic idea. And last year when I was looking out my office window, seeing all these young families with their kids riding around the street, remembering when I had young kids of my own and wishing I had a place to go outside in the woods to ride bikes with my kids, I would have killed for something like this. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. The actionable item is for me to finish up this plan. And I think Sean's got a couple of things that he's working on too. So
I guess the reason I brought it up is that I want this neighborhood association to know that we're working on it, and that we're not going to blow them off. We will answer their questions, and I don't want this group of people to be frustrated with us thinking that nothing is being done.
Yep, that's completely fair. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Paul, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think I'll leave it at what you said.
Okay.
They are definitely hesitant to the ideas, and I think it's partially out of lack of knowledge, which hopefully you'll fill with this information. but it's partially just, yeah, some resistance from strong-willed individuals who I think have who live close to the park.
Okay. Paul, Chris, I appreciate your input.
Yeah, as well as yours, John. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Benjamin.
Is the park being used by anybody right now?
We don't really track park
So, like,
usage.
I grew up next to an elementary school that had a very large woods, and I know kids that would go out there and they would, build things similar to what you're talking about, just on their own. There was no permission, there was no oversight, there was no like, hey, this is the right way to do it and this is the wrong way to do it. They just did it.
Yeah. So that's part of the second point I want to make. First point is we don't really track usage at a lot of our parks, right? Patrick, is that fair?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, especially this park, which is kind of off the beaten path. Like a lot of people don't even really know it exists. So usage is kind of hard to gather. Now, Paul and I had a discussion earlier this week. I rode my bike by there and I saw a lot of foot traffic towards the front of the park. But Paul actually hiked back into the park, and Paul, you did see some footprints going back there, right?
Yeah, there's probably 3 or 4 kind of diverting paths. Looked like probably some kids sledding, or I don't know. There's some terrain there, so you could play or sled, and there's definitely some signs of some forts being built back there. So I think some kids use it. I run by there a lot, and I've never seen a human in there, but I'm sure it happens, and I'm sure people are back there occasionally, very like infrequently is what I would say. There's no access point besides something that someone built that leads to like kind of a neighboring home. So it's hard, it's not something that like you could easily get back into in its current state. It's just woods. But
So we shouldn't build a dog park or a bandstand back there.
Benjamin, it's a parcel that was donated to the city by the developer. When the neighborhood was developed, evidently this parcel was determined that they could not build a home on it. So it's quite steep, it's quite hilly. And one of the residents has actually put a trail in and has put down down gravel or
mulch.
Yeah, mulch, not gravel, thankfully.
They've put mulch down in part of it as a walking path.
That's cool.
So
I guess to answer your question rather unscientifically, Benjamin, we don't think that park receives hardly any use. Like a person or two a week, maybe.
Okay.
Paul, Patrick, you think that's a fair guess?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
yeah. Any other comments? New business, outdoor recreation and activities. I think we're ready for Ashton. Last month or the month before, I discussed ice skating in either Bronson Park or Spring Valley Park. Well, that got me thinking, why would we stop at just ice skating? I think a Spring Valley Park would be excellent for cross-country skiing, or Chris, ready for this? Fat biking. Yeah. So how as a department, how do we get those types of activities started? How do we get people interested in those activities? Go ahead, Ben.
I used to go to this Asable. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, but they pull these they have a big box that they pull behind a not a ski-doo. What's the winter version of a ski-doo? Snowmobile. And it's got two like V-shaped 2x4s on the bottom that they make tracks for the cross-country skiers.
Yeah.
I went out to Spring Valley to look at the rink a couple weeks ago, and I was running around, and the snow's perfect for skiing, but if you're the first one out there, it's a lot of work to make a trail. So if you have those trails, if someone can zip around when there's a big snowfall, I think people would use it. I would. And I can think of a few other people that I know that would too. I think that would help a lot getting your average person to get out and use it.
I'm not a cross-country skier, but do you need to have a trail that's groomed?
You don't have to, but it's like hiking through a bamboo forest. If somebody went in front of you with a machete and you're just walking through, it's so much easier. You don't need it, but that's been
I believe the Kalamazoo, the Millam golf course has someone go out and create a course and groom trails.
Yep.
Yeah, they would be a great group to contact to see if they could map something out for us in.
Is that not done through the
Valley.
parks? It's done through an individual group.
Yeah, no, it's I'm not 100% sure. I know with the new ski shop opening there for the wintertime at the golf course, but I think it's a volunteer group that might groom that trail that they use at the course, but I can find out. Definitely let everybody know.
I guess my question is, how do we get these types of activities started? Cross-country skiing, fat biking. Are those two compatible, Chris? Do you know? Can you do those two activities on the same course?
So I've heard one person tell me yes, because they say the fat bike kind of levels everything out a little bit. And then I've heard one person tell me absolutely no, and that I was destroying their course and to leave. So I don't know, I'm 50-50 on that. I don't know, Benjamin, if you can add any additional info
I
on
think
that.
if you're used to a groomed trail, having a fat tire, I had people yelling at me for going through the woods with my dogs because it was ruining their trail, and I'm just like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, sorry. And a fat tire is gonna mess it up way worse than some dog paws. So I think if you're used to people going through a groomed trail and it's getting messed up, that would not be exciting. But if you're a 20-year-old that's gonna push through it no matter what, then who cares?
Yeah,
It depends on who you're trying to attract, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, John. And then for like fat biking too, it depends on the snowfall. I was out at Maple Hill a week and a half ago, and people were out there doing that with no grooming whatsoever. So, and we haven't had a ton of snow. And I've ridden my bike through a lot of those trails back in Spring Valley, fairly extensively. And we could do a lot, especially on that north side of that park. There's a lot of woods where there's some room to build some fun stuff. So
Yeah.
I know a group that does a fat tire bike competition up in Marquette. A lot of them are hang out at Black Rocks, the brewery up there. I could talk to them and see if they could throw a couple ideas. Maybe we could hold something like that down here. I think a big part of it too is I feel like there's small cultures, there's different biking cultures around town. And if you can get them to know, hey, this is a good place to do it, nobody's going to give you a hard time, you're welcome here. I think that's a big hurdle to get over with some people, like skateboarders. I'm thinking, if they know this is a place you can go, then they're like, oh, awesome.
Go ahead, Michael.
I just wanted to know if it was a way for us to kind of identify these groups or these individuals that be interested in these activities kind of as we transition out of the season to prepare for next, to know if we got, groups of bike clubs that are interested in the trail or, cross-country skiers that would be on deck for next year's activity.
So
I know there's like a Nordic skiers group that handles that Millam stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick. And then I'm pretty plugged into the Southwest Michigan Mountain Biking Association. It'd be a good group to reach out to. They've actually given us some assistance with the Glen Park Kids Trail. So there are groups that we can definitely reach out to.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Ashton, do you have any input?
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking we did hold a winter jamboree for a few years, and then just weather canceled us. So that winter jamboree was a winter sports where we would do fat tiring, biking and cross country skiing and snowshoeing. Partnered with Lee's, obviously they're out now, but and then Pedal would come out with some fat tire bikes, but weather was just so tough where we ended up pushing back until we canceled. I think that was 2 or 3 years in a row. So we transitioned from there. But as this conversation's evolved, I was just thinking with Millam having the groomed trail for cross country skiing, and some people saying biking on it is bad, some saying it's fine. What about Spring Valley? Just, talking with those bike groups, making that the dedicated fat tire biking area. I mean, it's an option. Not that it has to be that, but I think that'd be a decent way to keep that park activated through the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think Fort Custer actually grooms their trail out there, and they might be the only park, I don't know, in Southwest Michigan that actually tracks ridership. So they might be a good resource to contact and say, hey, how many people are actually using this thing? So,
Yeah.
Not that, yeah, I mean, we don't want to build this thing and have 7 people use it, so we want to make sure it's viable, or at least money well spent, not necessarily viable.
Well, can we designate a park for fat bike riding and a park for cross-country skiing? Millam for one activity and Spring Valley for another activity.
Mm-hmm.
And that,
Yeah, I would think so.
yeah. So I guess, is this enough information for the department to work on, or is this something that our board should do? I guess I don't know how to pursue this.
I think probably the best thing would be, I've got enough information, skiing wise, I can reach out to Matt that runs the ski shop at Millam and ask him to talk and see how interested they would be. Obviously it's already established there at Millam, but then, like Ashton said, we have a pretty good contact with Tim at Pedal. And I can contact Fort Custer. That's a great idea, Chris. So I think that'd be a start, and then we can, bring it back to the board and let you know our results and go from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Any other comments? Item 2, Michigan Department of Natural Resources grant applications.
Yeah, so I think Sean had mentioned previously that with the farmers market, our grant writer, Carrie Lynn Williams, and he were working on a trust fund grant to help support the farmers market. That has been submitted, and there was an article, I think that was in MLive a few weeks or a month ago, regarding the playground at the farmers market that's planned. And Sean just wanted me to clarify a couple different things. So the trust fund grant is going to be utilized for kind of the market in general, the new restroom / office building, part of the vendor sheds, and that type of work in the project. And then we're actually going to be applying for a rec passport grant to utilize for the playground. The playground will likely be kind of in the latter phases of the entire project, but I don't know if he had shared the pictures with you, but I have a couple pictures that I will share with you right now of the pictures of the farmers market. Let me see if I can find them here. And here we go. Let me know when you guys can see that. Okay. So this is one of the renderings that Inform Architecture, who has been working on the project with a number of different entities, has come up with for a rendering of what the new restroom building will potentially look like. I believe it'll be a lot larger than the one that we currently have. I think it's increasing the restroom facilities by, I believe, 100%. It's going to be quite a large building. The storage areas that will be encompassed in the building for storage of market items and things will be increased by, I believe, 50% over what they have now. And then there'll also be an encompassed office in that building. So this is one of the renderings of what it'll look like. And then I have another picture of kind of the opposite side of that building. There's a larger layout of the entire market, but I don't think that's completed as far as us being able to show you right now. But I know Sean has plans to bring that once the project starts, and it's currently out to bid right now. But that was what the farmers market will look like potentially with that new building. This is not the all-encompassing building with that'll include like the teen center and the kitchen facilities and things like that. This is just the initial portion that will be started this year in construction, and then that building that I spoke about, the larger one, will come in the second phase of the farmers market. So if there's
Okay, now,
any questions,
did we need to have some public comment on this topic? Or am I misunderstanding that?
no, I believe there was a public comment period that was announced, and let me just pull up the email real fast, John.
I guess I was assuming that was part of this meeting, and I could be wrong.
And no, you are correct. That was, yeah, I have it right here. So there was a 30-day public comment period to kind of coincide with the trust fund grant, where it's originally announced. And then I think this is the culmination of the 30-day comment period. So if there was any public comments regarding the trust fund grant and what the department and the city as a whole was going to be using that for, people could make comments. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but that was part of the initial offering of showing the pictures and whatnot.
Okay, and how do we know if there are public comments? Is Amanda, is that your role?
I believe either she or the IT staff would let us know if there was any.
Okay, that's what I needed to know.
Yep.
Item 3, PRAB workday and meetings in a park. Shannon, is that your topic?
No, that was something Sean asked me to add, so I don't know if Patrick has anything to say about that.
Let me think. I know we've discussed obviously trying to, and actually Ben and I talked about this last week when we had coffee, trying to bring back, obviously, going out hopefully to having PRAB meetings in the parks this summer. I actually just saw before I got on here that some of the restrictions have actually lessened for the state. So I think that was one of the things that he wanted to bring up, just to try and encourage, and then also maybe find out which parks the board might want to visit this summer. And then as far as working in the parks, I'm not sure what he was mentioning for that.
Okay.
Are there any parks that are going to be worked on in the future, or just going to be completing projects that would be good candidates for a meeting this summer? Like,
I know we'll have work being done at Lacrone for the splash pad. but that won't necessarily take up the entire park. So you could have a meeting there if you did want to choose that park. And Millam will have some work done as far as the dam removal, but obviously that's just in one concentrated area. MLK Park will have some pretty extensive work done. So that one you could probably still try and have a meeting there if you'd like, but you might have to move things around a little bit.
And even if we, excuse me, Patrick,
Go ahead, Pam.
if we are to meet at MLK, we can schedule it out a little bit after we think much of the work is going to be completed.
Correct.
And
Yep.
then also I'm going to speak on Sean's behalf because we have not really had much dialogue about it. But we have adopters for the flower gardens, and he and I talked, or he mentioned maybe the possibility of the PRAB members maybe adopting one of the beds. We got one bed open, and he thought that it would be good for us as an advisory board to look at working as a group in a park. And so he put that out there. We haven't had an opportunity to talk about it much, but we're going to have our planting day sometime in early June. And so we're going to at least extend the invitation and give something for all of you to think about when we come together. And then, maybe you can have your own identified flower bed. We got one bed left. That's the only thing. And I'm trying to keep that open because the other ones are taken up by some youth groups. But I think that sounds pretty exciting for us to be able to have our little bed there in the park.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So we're going to be talking about a little bit further, but maybe some of you can think about wanting to adopt a bed. All right.
Nice.
Excellent. Do we want to table this for next board meeting so that Sean can give his input?
I would like that.
Would someone make that motion? I guess.
I'll make a motion to table this topic until we can get some input on Sean next month.
Is there a second? Thanks,
Second.
Benjamin. Is all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we'll table that until next month. Thank you, Patrick. Thanks, everybody. Upjohn Park Fitness Court.
Huh?
Patrick, that must be you.
It is. So before I show you the pictures, Sean was approached by, I'm not 100% sure who. I believe part of it was from Priority Health, which obviously is an organization up in GR. And I think someone he knows on the east side of the state in Oakland County has kind of gone through this process already and said it's a great outcome. So basically, the concept is kind of an outdoor fitness type area for people to exercise. And a lot of it can be grant funded. So there's two options that we have. The initial one, which I'll show you here in just a second, is kind of a program that works through Priority Health as far as partial funding. And then you just have to pick a location and basically create this outdoor exercise area. And I'll actually share my screen so you know what I'm talking about here. So this is kind of what we're speaking of. And what we did was when Sean initially heard about this, he talked to Carrie Lynn, our grant writer, and we just kind of discussed, worked with Ashton on, where this might be a good fit for the entire community to use. And we came up with Upjohn Park. And the portion of Upjohn Park, kind of the northern portion of the multi-use field, hasn't got a lot of use in the last few years. It's a pretty wide open space. And this type of a concrete pad outdoor exercise fitness area would be a good fit there, to allow residents to come in, exercise, enjoy the outdoors. And there's kind of I'll show you in just a few seconds, there's an app that goes along with this from the company that has designed these, from the National Fitness Campaign. So in looking at it, we looked at the area. The actual concrete pad wouldn't take up a large amount of space in that open multi-use field. And so what kind of stemmed from that was Priority Health, organizes this program. And I'll show you another picture here that's got some more information on it. And so he spoke to a colleague of his over in Oakland County, and they actually participated, went through this process, created the outdoor fitness area. And from the moment that it opened, it has been utilized pretty much nonstop. He said it's been a great hit. The community loves it. It gives people a place to go outside, obviously exercise, and then, also partake with other people in doing the same type of activities. So what Sean and I had kind of kicked around was Upjohn Park would be great. Let's see if, Bronson Health might want to actually, participate with us. So Sean actually spoke to Bronson, and they're very excited about the idea. They're encouraged. They want to participate. However, they had quite a few projects last year, building wise, that they took on. So they're interested to participate, but we don't think they could do it this year. So we're actually just coming to you to show you this type of concept and what it entails. And then there's actually, these are, I believe, some of the areas in the state that have some of them, obviously with the priority health locations. So what we'd like to do is kind of work on this some more. And then along with Bronson, I believe Sean has a commitment from KVCC to help as well. So this was just a concept that he wanted me to present to you, answer any questions, and then just let you know that we're going to try and work on this to get funded to actually build at Upjohn Park next year. So,
Hey, Patrick, this is
Yes.
Chris.
Yeah.
One question. I know Upjohn Park has issues with some of the stuff in that park being misused.
Yep.
As the skate park comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
How do we mitigate that risk with something like this?
So I actually brought this up when we went out there and met about a month ago. And the area that we're proposing, or Sean thought would work well, was close enough to kind of that triangle along Crosstown and right next to the hospital that there would be a lot of eyes on it to hopefully, discourage any of that type of behavior. And it's kind of not directly within, sight distance of public safety, but being in that sort of area, hopefully it would be something that people wouldn't want to, damage in any way. So there is always that risk. However, with that being kind of out in the open, and there's some lights, obviously along the road and around the trail, that hopefully that would be discouraged. But that is a good point.
Yes.
Patrick, could we install some sort of like motion sensing light that would come on when someone is there?
Actually, yeah, we could. There is one there. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but right at the trail where it crosses Crosstown going north towards Bronson, we actually went through kind of a pilot project, I think 2 years ago, with a vendor that we saw at our state Parks and Rec conference, of it's not necessarily a motion light, but it's actually a solar generated light. So it requires no electricity at all. So we could actually, that's not really a permanent light fixture there. We could move that and look at other ones. So obviously people could use that kind of at any time if they'd like, even in the evenings if they'd rather exercise then. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you, Patrick.
Absolutely. Stop sharing my screen.
Event recommendations. We have an event from Michael Palmer a community worship service at Bronson Park, May 2nd, set up at 8 a.m., event from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. with a tear down at 1 p.m. Has everybody had a chance to look at the event? Any questions, comments?
The only question I had was about the streets. Is that something that we approve? Okay.
No, I think that's through public safety.
Yep.
Okay. I just saw it was part of the request.
Yeah.
I guess the questions I had, and I don't know if this will impact it, is if they're going to use tents. Isn't that a potential problem, Patrick, in that park? If they use stakes?
Yeah. And they're supposed to actually notify the city on their application if they do that. So if it gets to where it goes through the approval process and is approved, we'll end up following up before they actually do that. But yeah, that can be a potential problem.
Okay. My only other concern is COVID restrictions at that time. I guess we can encourage them to practice adequate social distancing and things like that.
Yep, absolutely.
I was wondering, like when you brought up the street closures, and it does seem, I don't know, I'm kind of surprised that they need street closures for an activity in the park, in Bronson Park. That's not normal? I mean, it's right downtown. I can't imagine closing down Park Street and Academy and South, whatever, all these streets here surrounding Bronson for this activity.
Yeah.
Especially with one ways going the other way on both sides of it. Yeah.
So I don't know if we should, can we weigh into that, or is that just something for public safety to say no to?
I think that's their decision, but we can certainly weigh in on it. Absolutely. Yeah. I know for the art fair, the KIA art fair, I know they close streets for that event. So we're not setting some sort of a precedent here.
No.
That has thousands of people, and this has hundreds.
Yeah.
So I would be opposed to closing the streets, but I don't really care if it gets attached to this or not. I think it'll be handled at public safety.
Yeah. Any motion?
I did have one other question.
Yeah.
Has anybody else showed any interest in using this park at this time or no?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
I'll motion to approve this request.
Is there a second? Chris, Michael, Benjamin, pick one. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? So moved. Item 5, or no, I'm sorry. I think I skipped my item. Pam, you're supposed to keep me on track. Prep board. I wanted to discuss new board members, perhaps adding positions to the board. We have one position that's empty. I would prefer that go to a youth representative. We do have an applicant to the board who is not a youth representative. So I hate to say no to her, but I guess I would like the board's opinion on that topic.
I guess I'm confused. Are you saying that the applicant today, which we already approved, so that That's not who you're talking about? You're talking about someone else?
There is another applicant, correct? Which has not been presented to the board.
Oh, because I had asked that earlier and no one said that there was. I don't know.
I think he said that it was just sent over.
Oh,
Sean just shared that with Chris and I.
okay.
So we do currently have one position available. We do currently have one applicant available. And I have someone who could be a potential youth representative. Sean says he has someone who could be a potential youth representative.
Okay.
So I guess I'd like to have the conversation of how the board thinks we should proceed. Should we perhaps add members if that's a possibility?
I guess I would like to see the applicants, and if there's a youth representative that's good and a adult representative that's good, then I would encourage expanding. And if we don't have the people, then I wouldn't expand at this point. I guess I just don't have enough information yet.
Sure.
Have we had youths in the past?
We have, but it's been quite a while since we've had someone who was active.
Has the like showing up every meeting for 3 years been a thing for youth? I mean, I know when I was a kid, I would have tried my best, but
we've struggled. We've really struggled with it.
I'm not sure if maybe designing a slightly different method of having youths get involved might be helpful. I'm not sure if, I mean, it can be a little bit boring sometimes showing up to a meeting once a month for 3 years. You know, when you're thinking about all these other things in the future and all these exciting things. I'm not sure if there's a more interactive way of including someone who's still, I don't know if what I'm saying is making any sense or not.
Makes sense.
I understand. Yeah.
Maybe we could have like someone show up for 3 months or something and see how it goes. Or maybe like take on, I'm almost thinking like a Eagle Scout, like have a project that they want to work on that's gonna be at one of the parks, and that can be kind of their way of getting involved. I'm not opposed to them being on the board. I'm just not sure if that's asking too much. Somebody who's getting ready for college and picking out what classes they're gonna do, and I just have to remember to feed my dogs. It's pretty easy.
Okay. Go ahead.
Question. I wanted to know what the process was if there were two candidates. So let's suppose the youth candidate does, submit their name of interest, and we have the, young lady who's interested in participating. How would you compare the two, or the process that you would go to say who's the best person for this last space on the board?
To be honest, I think that's what I'm asking is how do we proceed with something like that? We've never been in this position before. To be honest, we've always been short board members, so we've never really been in this position before. I guess my preference is for a youth representative, but is that youth representative going to be able to attend the meetings like Benjamin had mentioned?
I think we'll have to ask, see what their interest level is.
Yeah, let's have the opportunity to take a look at the youth representative applicants.
Okay.
And I mean, if we can even get 2 of them to show up at next month's meeting, I think that'll even be a win. And then go from there. The second part of this discussion is really, can we have too many board members? And if we can, what is that number? And I think we can have too many board members. I don't know if, what do we have? 9?
Yeah, that's what it states on the city website. Is
okay. And as we add members, input will increase. Maybe we get to better decisions, but also then these meetings have the can essentially run really long too. And we've never, like John said, we've never really been at this point where we've been at full capacity. So I would suggest, in my opinion, is that we maintain this and see how well it goes. Try to add a youth representative, and if we feel like we can keep a good cadence and meetings aren't going long, or if there's input in the community that we don't feel like we're getting, and kind of what Paul alluded to is that, hey, there, like our last applicant was from Millwood. We don't really have a lot of input from Millwood, so that would make a lot of sense. Then we can have that discussion and then think about adding. So Paul's probably going to want to see this applicant, and as well as everyone else probably should as well.
Yeah.
So maybe, John, we put that on the docket for next month to review this other applicant, see if it's worthwhile to add an additional spot for, and then view these youth representative applications as well. And then we can make a call on that.
Go ahead, Michael.
I want to make sure I understand the conversation and what you're really asking, John. So what I hear is, and what Chris is saying too, and what Ben said too, is that we definitely want to keep the board at the non-capacity and fill the board because we never had a total, population. But at the same time, there is an avenue to have some youth representation consistently in our board meetings. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a board position that they serve, but consistent representation is what we're looking for from that youth advisory group. So we can fill the number with that interested applicant and then have a space for these individuals, these youth, to participate in our conversations.
Sounds good.
Yeah, can we expand on what that would look like as far as like wanting a youth to be involved? Because I really like that idea a lot. And I think if asking them to fill the only spot that we have right now, if that's not fitting, can we talk about what else we could do to get them involved? Should we talk about that next time?
I think that's a great idea. If I understand correctly, the youth representative position as it is a voting position. So that youth would be an active participant in this board.
And my opinion is that's an important status to have for that youth representative.
I guess the suggestion I'm going to make is that Sean will reach out to his youth candidate. I will reach out to my candidate, get applications, and we will also share the application from our current candidate. And at that point, we'll make some sort of a determination.
Is it reasonable to wait until they all three get their applications in before we bring them before the board, or do you just want to look at their applications separate from bringing them?
We can certainly share the applications as soon as we have them.
Okay. So I want to just go back to that original question. Like if I'm getting applications from a youth and an adult, they're going to look different and have two different kind of values. So how do we weight the importance or the place that we want them to have? Or whose application is more powerful or more important to what we want on the board?
I think that's
I think it's our discretion.
Yeah. And to that note, I think we want a youth representative, but if we get other applications that are not youth and they fill a niche from Kalamazoo that we don't feel is represented on this board, then I think we'd be open to adding another slot on PRAB. So
if that happens next time, how would you guys feel about having a different spot that's like a 1-year term specifically for you? Is that a bad idea?
I guess nothing prevents them from like leaving at the 1-year point if they don't want to be committed. It's not really a 3-year position that they're forced to stay. Anyone can leave as needed. So if it could create a issue where we have to talk to them every year and see whether they want to stay. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's probably not a big deal to me.
I think that's a great point, Paul. Anybody can leave whenever. I think the nice idea about changing that position to a 1-year term is we could get more applicants. So let's pick up this discussion with Sean next month. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. And in the meantime, we'll share those applications with the board. When and if we get them. You know, I don't
Right.
know. I don't know if my candidate will follow through. I don't know if Sean's candidate will follow through. We do have that current applicant, and we'll share that with the board. Okay. Any citizen comments?
Yes, we have one comment.
My name is Richard Stewart. I'm a city resident and I reside in the Southtown neighborhood. I'm asking if any of the board members could assist our neighborhood that's protecting our last remaining green space from a predatory developer. The area between Lake Street and Stockbridge is 9 undeveloped parcels. The majority of it is wooded, trees, lots of wildlife, owls, peregrine birds are down there, frogs, hundreds of baby deer. It's just beautiful, and it's been our neighborhood green space. It's a heavy natural watershed. It helps protect the area that otherwise floods. It's the last natural watershed we have since KVCC built up the 12 acres. So this is 4 acres between Lake and Stockbridge. So it's our green space, our natural watershed, and our last remaining wildlife habitat of our neighborhood. Some sustainability in an otherwise concrete area. And a predatory developer is trying to put a 77-car paved parking lot over this natural feature. And that's for some housing projects. The zoning board told this developer no earlier and told them to consider other sites that are available to them that they forward with zoning board of appeals. And so this is progressing, and we need some help to protect our natural space. I appreciate any help from any member. Thank you.
And that was the only public comment.
Okay, thank you. I think I know this parcel, and I think it's already gone to the city, and it's working its way through the process. If I understand correctly, there's going to be a mixed income housing development on this property, and I don't know. I don't know if this is anything that the Parks and Recreation Department can assist with. So
Yeah, if it's not on city park property, then it's kind of outside of our domain.
Right, I think it's private property, so I don't know how this board could prevent that from happening since it's already going through the process of being approved by the city commission.
I guess my only thought is that if I'm looking at it correctly on Google Maps, Portage Creek goes nearby, and I believe there's been talks of like a rails to trails that might go north to south in town. in that general vicinity. I'm not sure if that would overlay that that parcel. I don't think so. If there's any plans for the parks to develop that area into that trail system that would eventually connect down to the Portage Trail system.
Yeah. I think that's already actually been established. I'm not 100% sure where
Okay.
the area was that the caller was talking about. I can try and look, but
He said
looks-
Lake Street
Lake
and
and
Stockbridge.
yeah.
There's
a
go ahead.
yeah, right near Burdick, I think there's a or John Street. There's
Yes.
Burdick, then John Street, then
Yes.
a
It's
dollar
right
store,
there.
and then there's some looks like a big patch of trees there.
Oh,
And then
okay.
then some more industrial stuff, and then Portage Creek.
Yes,
Right.
the
Yeah.
creek is literally right there. So, and I think this item has already gone to the city commission, so I don't think at this point we can do anything.
Yeah.
We can tie ourselves to some trees, people.
It looks like we've lost our commission liaison.
Yeah, he went out not too far into the meeting.
Patrick, are you able to give any information for Friends of Recreation?
I am not. Sorry.
No,
Not
that's
on that.
okay.
Yeah.
Parks and Recreation Director monthly report. Do you have information for that, Patrick?
No, I think just what Sean was presenting tonight or wanted me to present. So if there's any questions, I can try and answer them.
Any staff comments?
No, nothing for me.
Chris, any comments?
Nope, no comments from me.
Pam Rowland,
No comments.
Paul Tinney,
Nope.
Benjamin Stanley, any comments?
I have so many comments. Okay, so the dog park, love it. Thanks everybody. It gets crazy muddy in the spring and the fall. We're at that point right now. I went yesterday and it had pretty well frozen back over again for the most part. But we're getting to that point where it's gonna, I don't know if there's anything we can do or not. Do we just kind of let it go and then it slowly comes back as the sun comes out? I know that there was straw put out in the fall, and that seemed to help quite a bit. I don't know if that's something that we want to try again or if it's going to be a big mess to clean it up or not. There's that. And then I also was wondering about some of the park rules. Some people are real sticklers for the rules and they're like, rah, 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 rah. And I'm like, look, I mean, come on. Like only dogs that are under 25 pounds can be in the small dog park. But a lot of times if there's like a dog fight, nobody's in the small dog park because the small dogs are playing with the big dogs. Was it like, do those signs get remade like every 10 years? Is that something that we can have people comment on? No? Okay. Not a big deal.
No.
And then I did want to, I think we're going to talk next time about it, about the Adopt-A-Park programs. I had a lot of people actually asking me about, like, are we going to have a dog poop cleanup day? Because, you know, all the snow's melting. And I'm like, that's a great idea. You want to put that together? They're like, well, I thought you were going to do that. I was like, oh, there's this new Adopt-A-Park program. You should sign up and we can all do it together. And they're like, oh, how do I do that? And I'm like, I don't know. Give me your email. I'll figure it out. So that's another thing I would like to talk about. Hopefully next meeting, maybe we could figure out, you know. And then the last comment I had, Pam, MLK Park. The city commission approved shutting down the little alleyway that goes behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about doing something. I'm not sure if we are going to do something with that or.
I do have a question, Patrick.
Yeah.
The commission actually approved closing down Harkins Court? Have we taken the necessary steps or followed the procedures for putting in a formal request?
Yeah.
To
So
the
what?
planning, the planning department, when in zoning would probably be involved with that, because you have businesses like McNally. I don't know if anybody has been in contact with Ryan McNally, because their business is right there. And so
Right.
I don't know if that has taken place. And then, there's a process, because if we just close that street out, we have to notify the public safety, all the EMS, the emergency vehicles that might use that. They would need to be notified. So I don't know if we've actually taken the proper steps in having that little court closed off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a very good question. We did. Basically, what happens is Director Baker kind of highlighted this when it went to commission. We're closing the street down, but the item that the commission approved was decertification of Hawkins Court. And what that means is basically the city will not get any state funding to maintain that road. It'll just be city owned. So it's what actually is going to take place is we're putting in removable bollards that'll be in the asphalt that we can take out if we have like an event or food trucks that we're going to have come into the park. So we'll be able to keep that road open per se. But public safety's always also already known about it, and I believe that they would let McNally know. I can't speak to that. I'm not 100% sure the way that the city process works, but
it's quite difficult getting any feedback from them. I've attempted to talk with them about another project using their unused building for a possible mural to be painted on their building.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm supposed to hear back from them this week. But then talking about the closure of the court, if you can explain to me what type of barricades, because have we, the barricade fencing that they have at Spring Valley Park, where they close the gate?
Yeah, no, it's not like that.
And it's not like that, where we could just open it up using a key and not actually vacating the street permanently?
Right, correct. I wish I had a picture to show you. The bollard type actually is, we have one currently in the north side of Fraze Park, kind of leading off of the road, going into the walkway. They're somewhat similar to like the bollards that are along the KRVT trail, like as you enter Verburg on both sides. It's a semi-permanent structure. It'll go into the ground, but it's held by a padlock where we can actually remove those. And I'm not sure the amount, but I think there'll be at least 3 or 4 of those across each side of the court. So we'll be able to move either one, all 3, depending on if there's events or anything like that. And I would believe, if there was an event that was set up where they needed access to that to either unload or load things, or like I said, we had food trucks come in, either our park staff can open the padlocks and remove those, or we might be able to actually work with the event organizer to have them maybe do that, kind of like the gates that you were speaking of at Spring Valley, Pam.
So there's something that I've noticed on Harkins Court on both the east and the west side. There's like these cylinders that's sort of like, and maybe they've been there all along, but I just noticed them. But they're like 3 round cylinders that look like they've been cut into the pavement.
Mm-hmm. That's probably what those are. Yeah.
I talked with Sean a while back ago because he had put barricades up, and I just, he called to tell me to go take a look at them. And I asked him if he had talked with McNally. That's where the problem would come in, as well as with our emergency vehicles, and he had not done that. And so he took whatever it was, had it removed, or maybe it went back down into the asphalt. I don't know. But I know that we should really be careful, or, make sure that we're following the proper procedures if we are going to be closing that street off, because we do have a serious problem with people parking along that court on both sides, and they're basically there all day, and there's a lot of unpleasant activities that go on, and so it's a big problem, the parking. And so that's why we had talked about using an option where we can maybe curtail or not have to deal with that situation this year.
Yep. Yeah. Public Services is actually installing the bollards for us. So they'll be the ones that'll put those in.
Okay. So I can go to Fraze Park and take a look at what you're talking about?
Yeah, it should be almost the exact same type of bollard. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that's the general concept.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yep.
Any other comments? The only comments I had were for Shannon. Shannon, can you tell us how the scavenger hunt went?
I think it went really well. We had quite a few submissions and people had really positive comments about the whole event. They really enjoyed going out and seeing parks that they didn't even know that we had. So it was a really cool thing and definitely something that we'll do again next year.
Good. That's good to hear. And did we actually send PRAB materials to our new board members?
What materials are you talking about?
A park map. Do we have a packet that we can send to the new board members?
I can make up some sort of packet and send it to them for sure with maps.
Okay, maps and descriptions. And when
they used to have a huge book,
yeah,
like a book that was 20 years old that had the parks identified, and
we still have those, Paul.
I assume there was a big box of them when I saw it.
So I just think it would be helpful for the new board members to know where the parks are and a little bit of description for each park.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely do that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it for me. And Michael, did you have a comment?
Yeah, one quick comment. I wanted to thank the city and shout out Shannon and the city and everybody just for the work with the scavenger hunt. We did participate in it as a family, and my kids enjoyed it, even though we didn't stick to the rules as was required. But it was definitely a fun time for all. One thing I wanted to comment on, or just put on the table for the group, was consideration for. We had talked about it before briefly, but a master gardeners program that we can either have classes or educational opportunities to really tie in with our Adopt a Park, which I think ties in with what I was saying earlier about our invasive species and people just being active in our parks. So having a way that we could focus that attention in a program that's a collaborative program with Michigan State University. It also has a multi-generational approach that we can kind of, provide everybody into, and it also gets them involved in our parks. So just a consideration for at least us to think about that in conversation, or at least an opportunity just to provide to the city.
I think that's a great idea. Patrick, is that something you can share with Sean?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I was going to say, Michael, that's a great idea. And our park staff, Maggie, who's our landscape coordinator, she's actually a master gardener through Michigan State and loves to teach classes like that. So taking from this meeting, I'll actually talk to her and see if we can't come up with some type of a program to incorporate PRAB and any type of volunteers into that and help educate.
Great. Good ideas. Any other comments? Thank you, everybody, for attending. We are adjourned. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
You guys.
Good night.
Night.